Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of The Life Between All or Nothing. I am Scott J.
And I'm Mary
Joined
Kay.
by.
And I'm Mary
Okay,
Kay.
there we go. Did I up for a second?
I think, yeah, you froze up for a second. So
We
I said
got
my
this.
piece and then you can.
Okay, all right.
Oh my God.
Well, here
Here
we
we
are.
go.
Here, here we go. Mary Kay, this is episode 25.
Wow. Happy
Full
25th
five.
anniversary.
25th anniversary.
I love it.
Okay,
I can't
we
believe
are
we've been
we
doing
are
this for 25 weeks.
I know. I know.
Wow.
This is season 1 of our show. I'm not
Season
sure how
one.
many shows are. Yeah, then we're gonna have a season 2. Then we're gonna have a season
Yeah,
3, and then we're
of
gonna make it all
course.
the way up to season like 5,000 is what we're gonna do.
Wow. We're going to be doing this from the
From
retirement
the
home.
great beyond. From the great beyond. We're
That's
gonna get really good Wi-Fi signal, and we're gonna do it from the great beyond.
Ooh,
Okay.
yeah.
Gene's already jumped on board. Hi, Gene. We got Nicole
Hi,
Young.
Jean.
Nicole,
Hi,
thank
Nicole.
you for joining us. I haven't seen you in a while. And of course, our man Gio is with us. Hola, he says, like he's from
Hola,
Hawaii,
Gio.
please. All right. Nicole says we do a seasonal shows is what we should do. Okay. All right. All right. Maybe we'll do that. Anyway, we are picking up from where we left off last week. Last week we had
Mhm.
Teresa on, which was what a great treat that was, right?
That was
That
such a
was
treat because
cool.
that was my first time talking to her on video. Like that was my first time meeting her, and yeah, just she's an amazing person.
She really is,
Yeah.
always great. And, but, then we were going to do a show last night, but she had grandchild things to do, taking care of
Oh,
grandkids. So, we will be doing our show, The X's, next Wednesday night. Please join us. We're going to be handling, we're going to step beyond the true crime and we're going to get into urban legends. And
awesome.
all urban legends are based on an original crime or a true story. So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about that. Anyway, so we're going to continue with what we talked about last week, which was, what was
Getting
it?
back on track.
Getting back on track. Getting back on track. See, I lost track of my thoughts. I got lost track.
It's just like your internet connection, right? Your brain is like, "Oh, I'm offline. I'm
Oh,
online. I'm offline. I'm offline."
I don't understand. I mean, at this point, it's like I got fiber optic now, and I still get these little pauses. And I think it's probably this computer,
Yeah.
which means this computer is either going to have to get scrubbed and restarted,
Yeah.
or
A brand new one.
there we go, or a brand. Yeah, I don't like that brand new thing.
I know, me neither.
Okay.
My
Nicole
laptop is from
says, what?
2015.
Yeah, I know. Listen, I've been using a laptop. It's an old, not this one. The one I'm using here is new, but the one I've been
Mhm.
using, like when I go out and I DJ and I do other things and presentations, I think I've
Mhm.
had that now for 9 years, and I'm shocked
Yep.
that it still works.
Yeah,
It
knock on
still
wood.
works, you know. But it's a bitch finding floppy disks for it,
Yep. I'm old enough to know what those are. Oh my God. Now they're just coasters. I don't even know if I have any around.
Coasters.
Mhm.
Yeah, those little frisbee things.
Mhm.
Nicole is asking, and this is really cool. What is the track really? LOL. And now you'll joke about that, Nicole,
Yeah, that's a great question.
but that's actually a good question because it's a different answer for every person. And if it's not, you're
Yeah.
living on somebody else's tracks. So, I mean, what would you say? What really is the track,
Yeah,
Mary?
I think the track, like you said, is different for everybody, and it's what you think or what you planned or what you um make as your path. And sometimes we get off that path. We fall off that path. So for instance, if part of your track is your fitness and you bought a gym membership and you want to, elevate your fitness level by going to the gym, but excuse me, say you get sick or a family member gets sick or something happens that prevents you or gives you the choice of not going to the gym. Well, all of a sudden, the 3 months pass sometimes, and you're like, dang, I've fallen off that track. So, it's things that we set for ourselves. And I guess that's the track. That's the track to me. What is it for you?
I like that. I think it's exactly what you're saying, and it's my track is it starts just like anything else. Any track that you're on has to start from where you are.
Yeah.
It can't start from where you ain't. If I want to get
where
if
you
I want,
ain't.
if yes, well, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people want to start their track from where they ain't. They want to start their track from. I want to start my track from being a millionaire. Well, you're not there yet. Where are you now? You're a person
Yeah.
with $10 in your pocket and hope. That's what you are. So that's where you have to start your track. So just the first thing is you got to know where you are. Then you got to decide, where do I want to go? And that's
Yeah.
where you lay your track. You don't lay a track and you know what? The more specific, the better in a lot of ways, because you aim small, you miss small, you aim big, you miss big. So,
Yeah.
Set little goals. Listen, I might want to go from Miami. My track might be from Miami to Los Angeles, but there's going to be many, many stops along the way. So let me just
Yep.
plan each little stop and just do that. Do those little segments. And that's kind of the track. We got some comments here that might help out with this. Oh, Nicole says, back on track. Heck, I build my new tracks. Forget the old ones. They no longer serve my new track.
Yeah.
That is very good. That's exactly
Yep.
right. The track that you had when you were 18,
Yeah.
which for me is back, when dinosaurs were walking. Yeah. The track that I had when I was 40, the track that I had last
Yeah.
week is always going to be something that's always changing. The older ones no longer serve my new way. That's exactly right, Nicole. Gene, this is great. My track is the old Hot Wheels loop track.
Oh, I love that track.
I love those.
Gene, I love that track because I used to have one for, when my brother and I used to play together, and then when I had a son, my son loved Hot Wheels and still does at 21. He still buys them.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But the Hot Wheels track, you could take it and reconfigure it and make it go in different directions, and you could put those loops on it. What I liked about the track was that you could change it, and that's something Nicole just mentioned as well.
Yeah,
was that flexibility, because when we think of a track, we might think of train tracks, and they're relatively immovable, and you can't direct them as you might want to go. But if we think of tracks as something that is flexible,
yeah,
I think that's a great starting point when you do fall off whatever track you're on, whatever track that you've planned for yourself. And Scott, you brought up a good point about you got to figure out where you are now. So
Yeah.
I know when I'm coaching people, that's one of my biggest goals for the engagement is to have the person be able to tell me, show me, where are they right now? Like, what is your situation right now? What are all the aspects of your life?
Yeah.
And then figure out, okay, so here's where I am. Here's the parts that I'm not happy with right now. And then we'll pick something and make the goal out of it. So like you said, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
And for me, I get people, so one of my slogans is think big or dream big. Think big and then shrink big. So it's okay to think big. It's okay to make these big, gigantic goals, but think of them more as a general direction rather than an actual bullseye that you need to hit. And then shrink big, like you said. find out what the little actions are that are going to get you closer to that thing. What are the little tiny actions? And so today, say it's a fitness goal. Today it might be, I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk. That's it.
Yeah.
That's my goal for today. And tomorrow it might be the same goal. Like it might be the same, action, not goal.
Right.
And, they always say the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, and you take that step.
Yeah.
And then be flexible and be open-minded, because like you said, you're going to Los Angeles, you got these stops along the way. Well, what if that one stop shows you some other opportunities that might be of interest? Well, you know what? Give yourself permission to explore those other things. So even if you're zigzagging, right, towards Los Angeles, well, maybe you end up in BC in Canada.
Maybe.
Right? It's kind of general direction going west. So I guess the point that I'm making and reiterating what you and what Nicole and what Jean said was that flexibility, make your own tracks, and yeah.
I agree with you. Nicole actually said, she said, I don't see my life getting back on track. I see I'm leaning into a new track.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's listen, I think you're absolutely right, because you take these stops along your track, or you get derailed. You get derailed. Yep. You get off track. You get off track for a million different reasons. We'll talk about a few of those in a few minutes. But sometimes it's a matter of taking a look and saying, okay, because this show is the life between all or nothing, which is wherever you are right now, this is where your life exists. Yeah. If you got knocked off track, your life isn't on that track anymore. It's right where you are. Yep. Sometimes you maybe want to look around and say, am I really off track, or did I just take a branch that takes me in another direction, but still fulfills what I need, and it's still taking me to something I want? Maybe on the way to my track is telling me I want to go back to school and get an education. You get on that track, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I applied for this grant, didn't get it, and I didn't get this loan. Now I'm off track. Well, it just means I could still have the same destination, but my route may have to change. The track that I'm on may have to change. I may have to do it a different way. We do this all the time. We do it when we're driving all the time. We do it when we're in the car and the bridge is wiped out. We detour. we take the side roads. We get off the highway. But the beautiful thing is, when you get sidetracked like that, my goal didn't change, but my route has. And the cool thing is, when you take the back roads when you're driving, isn't that where you find the coolest shit?
Oh, yes. Today, I found cool shit on the back roads because I was taking my dad to dialysis. So on the way to pick him up, on these back roads, beautiful morning sunshine, there is a field full of a flock of turkey, wild turkey. And then you've got the big Tom, and he's got his all his feathers splayed out. If there wasn't a car behind me, I would have stopped and taken photos.
Oh, exactly. But if you stayed on the highway and stayed on the main road and were so focused, you would have missed that.
Completely missed. Yeah.
I just want to tell people, sometimes going off track is what you need to do. Yeah. Sometimes going off track is where you find your rewards. Like I said, if I'm making a trip, and I talk about this all the time, if I'm driving from Miami down to Florida, from New York down to Miami, if I'm in New York, and I say this because this is a drive that I took, and if I plan my route, I'm going to take 95 down, and I'm going to get on 81, then I'm going to get on 84, then I'm back on 95, and that's pretty much my route. They're all main roads, highways. And guess what? I got to Georgia, and I saw signs for Savannah, Georgia, and I said, I want to see Savannah. This is so cool. This is so cool. I love old houses. I love golf courses. I love that stuff. And while I was on 95, you know what I saw? Nothing. Nothing. I saw trees and signs. I had to break away from the track every once in a while to explore, to see things. And I never would see it if I didn't. But the minute I get off that track, that's when I find the old country diner on the country road with the world's best cup of coffee and blueberry pie you would die for. But I never would have found it so I just want to say that sometimes Getting off track is simply a way of showing us around where we're at right now and taking
Yeah.
a step back and saying, not every moment has to be moving forward. Sometimes we need to move sideways a little bit, maybe even back up a hair. I was
Yeah.
just explaining to you that this weekend I'm kind of turning myself off from the world. I had a weekend last weekend where I spent the whole weekend in a hospital, family issues and stuff that was going on. And the week before that I was really busy at work. This week, really busy at work. So I haven't had a break. And I just want to paint. I want to play some music. I want to do some work around the house. I'm unplugging from the world. And oh my God, I'm not moving forward. No, you know what I'm doing is I'm enjoying my life in between. My life right now, I'm just going to take a moment and breathe. I'm going to get off the main road. I'm going to drive around the side roads a little bit and just be okay. And sometimes I think we got to think that way, right?
We definitely have to think that way, because sometimes when you do fall off track, or you get derailed, or however we want to say it, you get in this place of, oh man, like I'm failing here, or something. And self-care is a big part of it, and being able to take a pause and live in the present moment, not what was happening back then, not what's going to happen in the future, but right now, what's happening right now.
Absolutely. Hey, Jacques is with us. Hey, guys.
Hey, Jacques.
How you doing, brother?
Hi.
Gene said my bridge wasn't wiped out. It was blown up.
Oh.
While I was on it.
Oh, my God.
We all feel that way. Sometimes that's just kind of how it goes. But, Gene, thank you. And I got to tell you, Tony Lynn Coogan is with us tonight. Tony Lynn and I worked together, I don't know, 14 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe. When I was working in TV and radio in Jersey and in the Philly area down to South Jersey. And Tony was there, and she was she took care, she was the office manager, operations manager, whatever it would be.
Yeah.
She pretty much took care of everything. If you didn't know where something was, it was Tony. If you didn't know how to do something, Tony knew. If you just, you could walk in there with a half a brain just gone, and Tony would help you out. She just took care of everything. And so I miss Tony greatly. She's one of the few people you move on in your life, and a lot of times you could just carry memories, and that's good enough. She's one of those few people that I just miss with all my heart. So Tony, love you, love your family, love your son Timmy. You guys are all just great people. I really appreciate you being there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Of course, Walter.
Walt.
Hey,
I was just bragging, Walt, just so you can see. I was like, look, I met Walt McKinley and Stephanie McKinley, and I got him to sign my book, and we had dinner together. And Scott was so jealous, Walt. Jealous.
Well, listen, you took your wife to Toronto. Now do something nice for her and bring her to Miami. Bring her down to Fort Lauderdale, all right? Because then you can come and have dinner with me. I'll even buy it. So anyway, two of my favorite warriors right here. No, you know what? We were just talking. You and Steph are two of our favorite warriors all time. You guys, one conversation, you impressed everything in me. And we were just talking. We'll contact you. We'd love to have you back on the show.
Yes, we would.
Yes, heart. It was amazing meeting you in person. And,
likewise.
And he says, "Heck yeah, I'm in on that game plan." And then Gene says, "If you come to here, I gotta have to cook for you because I like
because you're a great cook."
Oh, and they're both willing to come on the show again. All right, so excellent. Glad to have everybody here.
Thank you.
But what we're talking about today, let's get back on track.
Let's get back on track.
You see what happens? I went to a comment, and all these people popped up. We saw our great friend, Jacques. We were just talking about you before the show.
Yeah.
God bless you. Love you. And Gene, and Liz, reading these comments, and Walt, it took us off track. But that's not always a bad thing. Let's evaluate it. Sometimes if we go off track, it's because there's something we're supposed to see.
Yes.
If you go to the Grand Canyon and you drive past it on the road, you might see a little something. But if you really want to experience something, you got to stop, get off the road for a moment, walk your ass up to the edge and look. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
So What would your life be? Oh, wait a minute. Jacques says, I'll come to Florida. Okay, let's coordinate this. I can't have you
There
all here
you
at the same
go.
time.
Oh my God.
We'll
Why
have to
not?
have, well, we got to do is get Mary Kay down here. And then
Yeah.
we'll invite everybody down and we'll have a party.
I don't know, Scott, but you know what about what's happening in Florida right now? I don't know if I wanted to come down there.
I know. Don't get me started. It is a
Yeah.
dangerous place for anybody who is free thinking.
Mhm.
Or, well, let's just put it this way. If you're intelligent, in Florida is not the place to be right now because it is run by the moronic few who believe that everybody must fit in a perfect box and and act a certain way. And if you're not that way, then they just as soon shoot you as look at you. So it is a very strange time. Anyway,
It is.
oh, wait a minute. Now he's saying you guys come to Arizona and I'll take you all
Yeah.
off-roading
Oh,
into
Sedona.
Sedona. Oh, I thought he was saying off-roading in a Sedona, which is
No, in a
which is a
Jeep.
Kia.
No, Walt and Steph have this gorgeous Jeep, so I've seen some of their off-roading videos. It looks like fun.
And what's Sedona?
Sedona is a place in Arizona,
Oh, okay.
and it rhymes.
Sedona. I went to Sedona, had me a Corona
Oh my God.
in
And
Arizona.
apparently beautiful sunsets too. So that would be a beautiful thing for me to see.
we
need
need
gray.
We need gray in Florida. We do need gray in Florida. You know, the gray movement is about, you know, people really kind of finally stepping up and helping people no matter what reason, no matter what, standing up and doing the right thing, treating each other with dignity, respect, kindness, and love, as opposed to diversion and everything else. Anyway, yeah, we do need that right here. Okay, here we go. Sedona is one of my favorite places on earth. So beautiful, red mountains and rocks. Oh, that's where I want to go.
Yeah.
I'll bring a little shovel. I'll be digging for dinosaur bones.
Yeah.
Just having a blast.
There's no beach though, right? Like, you know, there's no beach there. It's
well, with all that,
because you're a beach guy, right?
I'm a positive person. With all that sand, there's got to be a beach somewhere. So I'll be walking in the desert playing.
Oh my God.
I know. With all this sand,
you're going to be digging and probably uncovering UFOs or something.
I'll be digging. I know. I want to probably dig up some big tricyclops bone or something and become a famous archaeologist there.
Yeah, you'd be like Indiana Jones.
Gene says, "Can I hide in your luggage when you go?"
Oh my God, yeah.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. All right. I love all you people. Thank you for being parts of our lives.
Oh yes, I agree. I love you too. All of you. All of you.
I mean, this is episode 25, and it was like, I don't know how long we've been doing this. Obviously, it's been at least 25 weeks. I think probably about 27 weeks we've been doing this then. And because we did something, but just Mary Kay and I meeting. And listen, it wasn't on my track to start another podcast with another person or to meet or to do this. But what happened was we just got connected through a series of people, including Lynn Serrano, Chris Rausch,
yeah.
and the Clubhouse and all these different things. We just kind of ended up in each other's sites, decided to have a conversation. And from there, the rest is history. But that was a slight derailment in what I was doing. I wasn't planning on doing that. It happened.
Yeah, and same here.
Through that happening, I said, my track now needs to take me in this direction. I still have the same goals. I still want to head in the same, but now I'm going to be doing some other things and I'm going to be adding things. So again, let's just, okay, Gene, I wanted to answer this question for you. No, Gary's been in Europe and he just got back and we haven't talked yet, but we're going to be starting up again soon. Gary and I have not broke up. I still love him. All right.
This is your friend.
Don't tell his fiance because then she'll be mad.
Is that your friend that you do the podcast with?
Yeah, Gary and I.
Okay.
Live Out Loud will come back.
That's right. Live Out Loud.
That's our comedy podcast.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. So let's get back to this.
Let's get back on track. So you were talking about taking detours when you're like physically traveling, and you're gonna think I'm crazy, but it's kind of fun. Um, on I get lost, or sorry, I shouldn't say I get lost because I have my GPS. So what I do with my nav system in the car is on purpose, I will not listen to her. And I'll be like, "Oh, you want me to turn there? Forget it. I'm going to turn over here." And then she says, "Recalculating, recalculating." Like
Yes,
that's
I know.
I love it.
I
But I
can't
love it because
stand that because
but
then I'm
she'll
just
get
waiting for
me.
them to recalculating. Make the first available
Oh,
U-turn. It's like, no,
oh yeah, I get that too sometimes. But I love it when those messages come up, um, because it reminds me that my destination is still set in there. So no matter where I go or veer off, I'm still going to get back on track and to my destination somehow. Maybe I'll end up going for like this way to get there, but it's just fun to see that, you can set a direction and you don't have to. It doesn't always have to be a straight line.
no, it doesn't. But and so we can have fun with it too. I mean, how many of you
Hmm.
have changed the voices on your GPS just because I want some Australian girl to tell me which way to go or something like that? They've got all these voices. What do you use? Do you use a male voice or a female voice?
It's a female voice. I like the female voice.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
you see, don't want a man telling you what to do.
No,
I don't
no,
need a
it's
man. I don't need a man mansplaining how to turn into the Publix parking lot.
oh
All
my
right.
God. No, it's not that. It's that she actually kind of sounds like me. So it sounds
Oh,
like, and I know it's weird to say it, but it just sounds like me saying, like me being in charge, and I
it's it's nice that your GPS matches the voices in your head. It's really good because it
exactly.
all just blends right in, right? You know what? I want them to change. I want them to have an option in there. Bitchy New York housewife.
Oh
I would love to
yeah.
have that
Okay, that'd be fun.
because
That'd be
that would
fun.
be like, I told you to turn. Why am I even looking at these maps?
Yeah.
Why am I even? You know what? You're on your own. I hope you get lost and you get eaten by a moose.
You know what, Scott? I think you should do some voiceovers for nav systems because that would be fun, right? That would be fun. Voiceovers for nav systems.
Oh
Put
my
this in,
god.
and and sometimes I do talk back to the nav system. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
So it's interesting. A lot of times we get all flustered because oh no, I've had a setback.
Hmm.
Financial setback takes you a little bit off track. An emotional setback can take you off track. A physical setback can take you off track. A economic, like a world economic, can set you off track. I mean, there's so many things that could set you off track. So that you would think that we were so obsessed and so upset about being off track, we would never ever purposefully go off track, but we do all the time.
Mm,
Let's be honest with ourselves. We do it all the time. We take shortcuts, we cheat things, we do different things. We stop when we probably should keep going just because we feel like looking around or doing something. We always take ourselves off track, but when we're purposeful about it, then we're relaxed. When it's not our idea, then we panic. And maybe we should
yeah,
sit back and say, okay, maybe it wasn't my idea, but maybe there's still purpose to it. Maybe I could still find purpose or some sort of respite in what's going on here. So it's just something interesting. You like kind of going against the grain and saying, I know I'm supposed to turn here, but I really want to see what's down this road.
I
And
do.
when you
Yeah,
do that, it's like, well, shouldn't that kick in the same thing in your brain? Says, oh my God, you're off track and you're all screwed. No, you're not, because you're purposefully just saying, I'm going to break away from the norm for a few minutes. I'm going to break away from what I should be doing and enjoy something. And again, it's those times when you make the wrong turn that you find that restaurant you never would have found, or you find that,
yeah,
yeah, find that just beautiful, like scenery or something. Um, I mean, I remember when I used to ride motorcycles, I'd purposely get lost out in the country
yeah,
roads or out in the roads up in the mountains in the Adirondacks. I get lost in them just so I could find those roads that are just gorgeous. That looking at a map has no meaning, but once you're there, it has tons of meaning. So
yeah,
I think the first thing I'm getting back on track is exactly what we're telling you right now. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to be off track.
yeah.
Sometimes you can't. If you're constantly moving forward, what is that? Stop and smell the roses. Isn't that what they say? Isn't that what we're talking about here?
They do, and it's mindfulness, right? It's
Yes.
coming back into the present moment and figuring out, okay, where am I right now? What do I see? What do I smell? What do I hear? And
Yeah.
then taking it further, where am I in my life right now?
Mm.
So that you can figure out what you want to do next. And like we've been saying, it could be a different track. You could be
Yeah.
laying down a different track because the direction that you were going before and you got knocked off of, if somebody knocked you off or something, um, and then you can lay this new tracks to this new path or this new goal or this new direction that you want to go. And like life is an experiment, really, isn't it? Don't you think? It's one
Yeah. Yeah.
giant experiment with a bunch of different like little experiments in between, and it's fun.
Well, how would you like your life if you knew exactly what was going to happen every time something happened? There would
Yeah,
be no excitement to it. That would be like watching one movie for the rest of your life. You're never going to be surprised. You're never going to be entertained again because you already know everything that's happening. We don't want
no,
that. We want to be entertained. We want to be excited. I constantly tell people the longest line at the amusement park isn't for the trolley that goes around nice and slow around the park. It's for the roller coaster where you get on there and you don't know if you're going to, shit yourself or die or something's going to happen. You're just panicked and it scares you and it's up and it's down and it's all over. And we wait for that because we crave excitement. So
we
sometimes,
do.
so excitement is about exploration. It's about experimentation. It's about trying things, and it's about taking a bite of something at a restaurant and spitting it out because it's so goddamn awful, or taking a bite of something and saying this is the best thing I ever ate. But you don't know until you take a bite. And the excitement is in how am I going to feel? What is going to happen? This is
Hmm.
the life between all or nothing. It's about living your life today and doing what's in front of you and enjoying it, or really, if not enjoying it, at least getting what you can out of it. You know,
And savoring it. And I think,
savor. Yes,
you know, and savoring it, I think I love that word savoring because it makes my mouth water and now I'm hungry. Because you did mention food.
I
I
did.
think I know a lot. I've been talking to many people lately who are feeling like they're maybe not off track, but they're stuck on this track. They're just stuck.
Yes,
Um, and a lot of it is they don't know what, like maybe they were on this path and now they're like, okay, I'm stuck here. I don't know where else to go. I don't know what else to do. I don't know which direction even to look in. Um, and something that I do for myself when I get to that those points, and I do regularly, is find inspiration. So if you don't have a dream, it's okay. But if you want a dream, a goal, a path, a direction that you want to go in, look for inspiration. Go out there and look for inspiration. I think it's okay to look at other people's lives in the way that, hmm, maybe that's something I should look into for myself,
right.
right? Not for comparison's sake, but to look, even celebrities or whoever you might have access to in your life or online, and find some inspiration because one of those things might get you um, closer to defining that direction for yourself, and then you can take those small steps, make that action plan, and get there. So inspiration is another thing I wanted to add.
Yeah, I love that, and sometimes it's right in front of you, and
Yeah.
just those moments of mindfulness where you open your eyes and look around you, and you realize I've had inspiration in front of me the whole time, and or I've had something that has attracted me that I've just been ignoring, that I just or I've discounted it as being, well, I can never do anything like that. And
Yeah.
so I'm just going to stay where I am. I'm going to stay in my lane. Oh my God, the worst thing I could ever hear somebody say is, I just stay in my lane. I was like, well, how
Mm.
boring is that? And you can't be excited about your life if you're just staying in your lane. I mean, if you're going to really hit the highways and enjoy them, you got to weave in and out of traffic. You got to don't stay in your lane. Go everywhere and explore. But yeah, but definitely take inspiration from things around you, people
Yeah.
around you, from yourself. How about inspiring yourself? How about listening to that inner voice that maybe
Mm,
that little daredevil inside of us that when you go to sleep, you dream about being a rock star, but when you wake up, you're like, well, I suck. I'm not going to play my guitar. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to. But you know what? Maybe you should listen to that dream and say, it doesn't mean you're going to be a rock star, but it doesn't mean you can't act like one. It doesn't mean
yeah.
you can't rock and roll out. You can't, put your Led Zeppelin posters back up. And because if that's what your brain is telling you in your dreams and in your thoughts, maybe it's something you need to follow a little bit, or at least explore. At least explore.
Yeah.
The worst thing is when your own body, your own brain is dreaming and thinking and leading you to something, and we ignore that. Well, that's the greatest insult of all. The whole world ignores us sometimes. When you're ignoring yourself, I mean, that's the greatest insult ever. Don't do that to yourself.
I
You
totally
know?
agree, Scott. And I think sometimes getting knocked off that track or that path that you were on, that's what you needed so that you could hear that voice,
Yes.
right? Because we get so busy or we get so focused or so um, routine that you're just going down this path. You're in autopilot. You're not listening to what's going on in here. You're not listening to what your heart's telling you or
Yeah,
that little voice. Maybe it's just a whisper. But until you get bumped off that track, sometimes you can't hear it.
I agree. How many times?
Hmm.
How many times have you heard somebody say, "I've always wanted to write a book," or "I've always wanted to write my story," or
Yeah.
somebody says, "I've always wanted to learn to play piano," or "I've always wanted to do this," and "I've always wanted to do that," and there's just nobody there just saying to them, which is what they should say to themselves. Well, why can't I? Why not? Why not? Let me tell you something. Got to ask those what if questions and think about
Yeah.
possibilities, then take
Yeah.
action. Walter
Yeah.
is Walter McKinley is the quintessential idea of you have to follow your heart and you have to do what's right for you and you have to listen to those things inside of you that tell you I'm supposed to be doing something else or I want to do something else and then follow that. He had a career. He'll listen to the podcast he was on with us. I don't know what podcast it was.
I can't
Number
remember the episode. Yeah.
like number
Like
18
the
or
number.
something. You have
Yeah.
to go back and look for it. But that podcast where he told the story about he was successful in this area, and then he walked away from it and said, I need to do this. I need to fulfill this.
Hmm.
And
And
his track took him in a totally different direction. But he listened to himself and look what he's
yeah.
accomplished. Look what he's doing. I can't wait to have him back on the show.
And in service to others, right?
Oh
Like
God, yes.
Walt and Steph, they now have their Legacy Warrior podcast. Um, and it's to help other people. Like they are serving other people. And
Right.
that's what makes them come to life, right? That
Yeah,
it really brightens um their life by brightening other people's lives. And I think that's another thing that we can all look at in our lives to get satisfaction is to help other people, right?
absolutely.
What you need, give it to others.
Absolutely. Now, some people are saying that, I'm sure you're out there saying, and we even prefaced by saying there's all kinds of ways to get off track. And
Yeah.
maybe you got off track because of something else. Maybe you started like this year, I started really getting in my physical fitness going and I was doing this and doing that. Then I got sick and then there's this and there's always going to be bumps in the road that we can't completely control. That's okay. That's okay. And you want to get back on track, but it's difficult. And I know sometimes it is. Sometimes it's like, oh man, I got to start all over. I'm starting from scratch and I got to,
Hmm.
and it's like, how do I get remotivated? And
Mm.
there's a few things, I think whenever you get knocked off track into a place that's like you're really, really thrown for a loop, it's really important that you keep yourself organized to stay on your track, which means consistency, setting reminders, doing those kind of things to get back on track, especially if it's like a routine that has been broken for you. Does that make sense? If you got a
So
routine.
yeah, it does make sense, Scott. So what happens if you can't? if you can't make that routine, so I'll give you an example
All right. Okay.
to ask the question. So, I mean, for me, I've been dealing with menopause symptoms for the last, well, almost a year now. And it sometimes it gets really, really bad and it completely derails my day. Um, and no matter what routine or what organized thing I have in place, I just don't want to do it. Like my health.
Yeah,
So
I
I guess
get it.
maybe I'm answering my own question, I think, because
Yeah.
how I'm dealing with it now, and I'm still dealing with it, is to focus on one thing. So right now I'm focusing on, okay, let's figure out what are the things I need to do for my physical health. So I'm going to see my doctor. Um, maybe I'll get, a naturopath as well. And there's a bunch of other things that are in the routine, and I'm just not focusing on them. Like I'm not gonna. I can focus on them later,
Right.
but focus just on one thing. So one thing is just right now, bring my health back online, bring my balance back.
It's easy to focus on the simplest thing that's right in front of you, but that might
Yeah,
not be the priority.
yeah,
Sometimes you need to think beyond the easy thing into what is the thing I have to do first that
yeah,
really is going to be necessary or integral for me to move beyond this. And you're right,
yeah,
going to a doctor to make sure you're physically healthy. I know
yeah.
you've got that whole men on pause thing going on, and which is that's why it's named that, because when women go through this, they need to get rid of their men. Men should be on pause. Get them away from you. Do what you got to do, because men can only make you crazy during that time. I experience, my hand to God. All right, so anyway, but you're right. You sometimes all you can do is focus on one thing.
Yeah.
And as you start adding things back in, add them in so that they're attainable, achievable, and able to be repeatable. So that
Yeah.
if I'm going to, you don't get back on track by saying, I'm going to hit the gym 3 times a day to make up for all this time. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do. You say, okay, well, listen, I got to get back into it. Reasonable is to go back on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to set my reminder. I'm going to set a time. I'm going to keep a schedule. And it's a reasonable schedule. People sometimes set unreasonable schedules
Yeah.
when they do to get themselves back on track, and they know it's not even achievable. But if I set it and I make it unreasonable, when I fail at it, I've got an excuse. Well, that wasn't realistic. Right? So it's
Yeah.
almost like
Well,
self-destruct. It's almost like self-sabotage by doing that.
well, yeah, New Year's resolutions. A lot of people make gigantic New Year's resolutions, and by, I don't know, February 15th or something, they're
Yeah.
they're like, okay, I'll try again next year.
Yeah. I
Which
mean,
is okay, right? If that's what it is what it is.
well, first of all,
Um,
soon is not a time.
yeah.
Soon is not a time. I'm going to start, or or anytime, But I think that again, those are the kind of things where okay, I want to get my health back on track. I was healthier when I was younger. I am now 56 years old, and I am dealing with some things. So it's just like, okay, I've got back pain. I got other things going on. I got different things. Part of it is because I gained a lot of weight, especially during COVID. So
Mm,
I am about 60 pounds over where I really want to be. Okay. Now, reasonably, at my age, I'll lose 40. I'll be perfectly happy with that kind of spot.
mm-hmm.
But I have failed several times over the past 2 years because I am so obsessed with that goal weight that I don't think about the things in between. And so this time I'm approaching it a little bit different. I'm looking at the food that I'm eating. Yes. I look at the times of day that I'm eating. Yes. So that's
Mm,
one thing. Instead of saying this is a strict diet, just say, okay, little less carbs, but if I have a carb now and then, that's fine. But
yeah.
don't eat after 8 o'clock at night. I know that's a big thing. Don't eat a box of crackers at once. In fact, don't buy crackers anymore because that's like a bad thing for you. Find something else that works for you. And I'm doing different things and trying to approach it in a different way. So it's a much more achievable. And I'm not looking at the weight anymore. One day I'll step
Yes.
on a scale and I'll figure that out. My scale no longer has batteries in it. It no longer functions other than a place for me to stub my toe when I'm stepping into the
Yeah.
shower. It still does that, and I haven't moved it yet. I'm a moron, all right? Uh, but what I'm checking is the notches on my belt. And the notches on my
Yeah.
belt. So for the last like a couple of months, I've gone 5 notches on my belt. 5.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's
That's
it's
amazing.
no 4, actually 4. 4 notches on my belt, but this belt is on its final notch. Then I have to go back into a belt I haven't worn in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is okay, that's my measurement. So I'm looking at notches on the belt. These are tiny little things that if I do certain things, I can achieve that. But getting back on track, the minute I sit in there and say, I've got to weigh what I weighed when I was 30. I want to look the way I looked when I was 30. I am so screwed. That track is hell and gone from me. I can't get back on that track. That's not possible. I don't have a time machine. It ain't happening. My track has to be, I am a 56-year-old man. This is where I'm at right now. Again, start from where you're at. And that's the direction I want to head in. And there's a whole bunch of little things that are going to happen along that way. And like
Mm-hmm.
any trip you take, you get in your car all the time and you drive at night, don't you?
Yeah.
And you have to, if you have to drive 100 miles at night, do you see where you're going when you get in the car? No.
No.
What do you see? I see 100 yards in front of me.
Yeah.
The goal is there. This is where I want to go. But the only thing I have to focus on is those 100 yards. What's in front of me? If I spend all the time daydreaming about my final destination, I'm going to end up wrapped around a tree, getting dry humped by a moose up in Canada somewhere. That's what's going to happen. All right. I know that was over the top. But bad things happen when we're not paying attention to where we are. And when we fall off track and we try to like make everything up all at once, don't do that. Don't do that. Sometimes you get knocked. I'm going to tell you the truth. Sometimes we get knocked aside probably because we need to be knocked aside. Sometimes we get pushed into situations where, okay, well, it says need to run, guys. Love you.
Love you too, Walt.
Keep
Bye.
shining your light. Love you too, Walt. And Steph. Our hugs and love to both you guys. We'll talk to you soon. But you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I think that we either knock ourselves off or something derails us, because if we just keep going, we're going to burn out.
Yeah. I'm an expert on burnout.
Yes.
I know exactly how to get there.
And I've watched you. I've not watched you, but I've heard you, and we've been in conversation where one day you're talking about a little bit of stress, and the next day you're like, I can't even talk. I'm
shutting down.
You went over that. So maybe the solution isn't how to get back on track. Maybe the solution is knowing when to step off the tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point, Scott. That's a really good point. Because sometimes the track that we're on, the path we're on, either no longer fulfills our needs or is making us unhealthy. Is something it's not a healthy way to keep going. Maybe it was fine when you were 25, but now it's just something that's not for you. And I think, I don't know the age of everybody that's watching this show now or in the future, but for me in my 50s, like I'm going to be 56 this year in a few months in August. And I think, you know what? Now is the time in my life that I'm going to take control and say no to the things that really don't serve me and say yes to the things that inspire me. I have that freedom. I have that knowledge. I have that wisdom that I've acquired because of all the experiences that got me here, that I can stop and maybe choose a different kind of a path and in any area of my life. But I really want to taste life. Right? I have that zest for life, and I just want to embrace that, and whatever that means.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And stepping off your path, taking a breather, taking a moment to enjoy the things you've worked for. I know a lot of people who've made a lot of money and are completely miserable because they haven't stopped to enjoy the things they've done. And even simply to pat themselves on the back and say, oh, I did good. Even to have those moments. Lynn Serrano, hello, beautiful friend. Scott Lynn, love you. We were talking about you earlier too.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Because we both love you.
We both love you. Um, so we step off the tracks when we want to. Here's the thing. You remember the old-fashioned pressure cookers?
Hmm.
I think our mothers and grandmothers probably used them. And
With that little knobby thingy on the top?
yes,
Yep,
yes.
I remember. I was terrified of that thing.
And you would crank it and close it and lock it down, and then shit would build up and pressure would build up inside.
Yeah.
And you'd have this little valve on the top that would let pressure out, and you'd have to loosen it enough to let enough pressure out, because we can control how we release pressure. We cannot control the explosion.
Mm-hmm.
So if I look at my life that way, if I know that I have to release pressure, I have to decompress, I have to relax and have calmness and have moments of clarity and moments of peace. And if I could do that, I have control over that. I could take moments and step back and just say, let me just breathe. But if I don't do those things, I will not have control over when I explode, when I break down, when things go very horribly wrong. I will not have control. So know that sometimes
Absolutely.
getting off your track is necessary. We control when we release pressure, but we will not control when we explode. I'll tell you that right now. If you don't.
Absolutely. And it's funny. This reminded me of a conversation I had with someone yesterday where he was talking about situations that he was just getting frustrated and pressurized about what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked him some questions, and I got to the point with him where the situation was what it is. And the only thing that was pressurizing him was how he was thinking about it. So I invited him. I said, okay, that situation right there, every time it comes up and every time you feel triggered, can you recite something in your head? Not my circus, not my monkeys. Can you do that? So, and he loved it. He was like, okay, I can totally do this, because he's like, you're right. It's not my problem. Why am I getting upset about like what they're doing? It's got nothing to do with me. I'm just witnessing it.
I love that.
And yeah, not my circus, not my monkeys. Like, figure out what works.
A lot of people know, Sandy Mom, not with us tonight, I guess, but my mom is an artist, and she paints inspirational rocks. They're little rocks about that big, and she paints scenes on them in different things. Easy does it, different things like that. And she painted a rock for me, and it is in my living room right now, sitting next to my chair. And this little rock says, "Yes, this is my circus, and those are my monkeys."
Oh my God, that's funny.
Because I look at it the other way too, is that everybody loves the circus, and everybody loves chaos and stuff. And we have fun in that stuff. And just, you know what? Own it. I am part of this circus. Now, sometimes I got to say, hey, listen, that's not mine over there.
It's not mine.
I can't be involved in everything. But the truth is, if you're living in the circus, baby. And and there's monkeys everywhere, and there's elephant shit everywhere, and there's peanuts and clowns everywhere. Yes, clowns. I know you're afraid, but yes, clowns are everywhere.
I don't like clowns.
It's so what? So what? If you want to be a part of the circus, you're a part of the circus. If you don't want to be a part of the circus, you're not a part of the circus. But whatever you take on is what is yours.
Yeah,
and if you
that's
don't
the
take
key.
it on, it's not yours.
Yeah.
So don't sit there and say, oh my God, all this stuff. It's like, well, you chose to be a part of this circus, just like the job. Everybody bitches about, oh, my job is this, It's like, well, wait a minute. You got a promotion. You got more responsibility. And now you're bitching about the responsibility. You worked for that promotion. You didn't have to. You didn't have to say yes. Well, yeah, I had to because I wanted the promotion. Well, then you wanted all of it went with it. Well, no, I didn't want all that. It's like, you know what? If you're going to be at the circus, there's fucking monkeys there. Deal with it. If you don't want to be at the circus, don't go in the tent, okay? But if you go in the tent, just accept it. People get so wrapped up in things. I want to bring something up. I love the monkey circus thing. I love that. There are times, and I don't want to ignore this because we only got a few minutes left, Mary Kay. There are traumas that happen. Traumas, physical traumas, emotional traumas, mental health traumas. even the traumatization of things like addiction and things like that can come into your life. There are some things. Getting back on track could simply be like, let me get back into the world of the living.
Yeah.
Let me get out of my depression and my anxiety and my fear and all those things that come with trauma. And it's a little more complicated than as we're talking about. When you have these moments, you could step out, step in, you could get back on track, change your track. When it comes to really major trauma, it's really important that, first of all, you have to recognize that you're not okay. You have to be okay with the fact that you're not okay. It doesn't mean you're going to run around saying, I'm really effed up, ask me about it on a t-shirt. You don't have to do that, but you should be able to look in the mirror and say, I'm not okay. And so you need to recognize, even if you don't understand it, talk to somebody. You have to open up.
That's huge.
If you had the answers in your head, now the truth is, sometimes we do have answers in our head, but we need somebody to help draw them out.
Yep.
Because if we could have done it on our own, we probably would have before we got to the point of being really a mess.
Sounding board.
And I believe it was Albert Einstein, one of my favorite quotes in the whole world. You cannot fix a problem with the same thinking that caused a problem. You have to look for something on the outside. You're not going to find that unless you talk to somebody. And then once you recognize something's wrong and you start talking to somebody, start building a positive environment around you. A positive environment means make sure you have people around you that are going to uplift you, and not try to keep you stuck. A lot of times you see that in things like in the addiction world. It's like you keep hanging around people that are still using, they're going to want you to use. It's just the way it is. You've got to be around, people that are going to bring positiveness, fresh flowers, outdoors, sunshine for crying out loud is therapeutic. So make sure you do that. And, don't ignore your nutrition and exercise. Okay. Don't ignore those things, but that's the starting point. And certainly professional help is really required if you get to a certain point, but you have to understand that when there's a trauma that happens in your life or a series of traumas and you have cumulative trauma, you have to recognize I'm not okay. You have to say that to somebody else, start sharing that. And then it is really up to you to place positive things in your life that you want to aspire to. Positive quotes, positive people, positive anything. It's like the person who sits around because their heart's broken, so they'll listen to really sad love songs all day. Okay, when
been there, done that.
But if you put on Bobby McFerrin's "Don't Worry, Be Happy," you won't be sad. You'll be nauseous because everybody hates that song now, but you won't be sad anymore. Take some responsibility. But please, if you are suffering from something that is taking you off track, and it does involve some sort of mental health, some sort of trauma, something that is serious, please seek talking to somebody. Please talk to somebody.
And I just want to add something to that, Scott. And I'm glad you brought up trauma because, I talk to a lot of people that appear to be functioning fine. But they have these ideas, they have these things that happen to them in their lives that for one person might not be classified as trauma, right? So we can all recite the big things that would be trauma, things that happened in your childhood that are, unspeakable. Then there's this whole set of other things that can also be classified as trauma. Maybe they call it small t trauma. Something like that.
Yeah.
And those things, it's okay to address those things too, right? Like maybe you think that, I actually can't think of an example that I can share. But it could have been something like you felt left out of the volleyball team or something that you might think, oh, Mayor, just get over it. It was just a volleyball team and you didn't make it and what's the big deal? But there may be more to that it would be good for you to work through and heal all things. Heal the big things, heal the small things.
Absolutely. And I think that takes us into our time here. We're gonna see if we can gather some guests for next week. But I'd definitely like to continue this conversation about trauma. And I think this is something we need to talk about because you're right. We have to understand that there is big T, there's little T, there's all sorts of things in there. There's cumulative trauma. There's the one-off traumas where you have one big incident that happens, which actually those are easier to deal with than the cumulative traumas. But we'll talk about that. And we can talk about how all of us have suffered those in one way or another. And maybe if we gain a little understanding about ourselves and that we've all suffered some trauma in some way, maybe we'll have better understanding of others and be able to help them more. So we'll continue with this. Absolutely.
Yeah, walking and recognizing that everybody has something.
Yes.
We can approach everybody with kindness.
So, yes, please. I want to thank Lynn and Jean and Walt and Jacques. And I know there's more in there. Nicole.
There's Nicole.
And Gio and everybody for joining us. Those of you who didn't comment, thank you for being there. Tony Lynn, thank you again. Tony Lynn Coogan. God bless you. I hope you are well and your family as well. And also just one shout out to the late, great Tina Turner. Thank you for your soul, your courage to show us that someone who is in an abusive relationship can change their stars. And you did it before it was popular to do it. And God bless you for doing that.
Yeah.
And you showed strength, character that it takes to survive and to move on. And you gave us music that will stay with us forever. So God bless you, Tina Turner. Thank you for your life in our world. We appreciate you. Mm-hmm. All right. For that, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Mary Kay, final thought?
Final thoughts. Getting back on track. Really take care of yourself and figure out where you are now. It's okay to get off track. It's okay. Get curious. Get clear.
Perfect. If you're off track, ladies and gentlemen, maybe it's just you're at the roadside deli. Get yourself a nice donut, get a cup of coffee, look around outside, check out the scenery, get back in your car when you're ready. The track will always be there, but sometimes those moments in between, they're never coming back again. So don't miss out on them. Pay attention. Mm-hmm. All right. For Scott J, Mary Kay, I want to thank all of you for being here. We will catch you next time right here on The Life Between All or Nothing. Bye-bye.